nowadays, when people do a meditation retreat, they're very popular nowadays where people go on multi-day retreats, meditation retreats. And what is problematic for many seekers is they get very inspired during the retreat and they get all the opportunity to meditate for long hours and make spiritual progress. But then when they come back to their daily life, like how do you keep the inspiration from that retreat going? Many times after a few days or weeks, the inspiration is kind of taken over by the hustle and bustle of everyday life. How do you keep that inspiration to meditate going in your daily life? How do you keep the progress that you've made during the retreat alive in your daily life? Do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, because I've seen the same thing when I've been traveling around the world, that many people a few times a year or maybe once a year will go on a meditation retreat, and it doesn't often translate to them having a really solid practice. And I think what you want to think about there is, why was it possible at the retreat for you to meditate on a regular basis and every day and put a lot of time and energy into it? And so the main thing for me there is the environment is different. So you're in an environment where it's specifically set up to make it as easy as possible for you to do your practice. So all of the distractions and all of the problems in your life that you normally have to deal with are taken away. And so you've got more time and space then to put that energy towards your practice. And so obviously when you come back into your life, it's not possible to just remain, or it's probably not even advisable to remain living on a meditation retreat for the rest of your days to keep up your practice. But what you want to think is, what parts of the environment that you were surrounded by made it easy for you to practice? And then try and take some of those ideas and actually try and change your own environment in your home situation.
Can you give some practical examples of that?
Yeah. So like, for example, if you do a Vipassana course, you don't have your phone with you. And so when you get up in the morning, there's not even that temptation for you to get up and first of all, check social media or look at the internet. And so taking some cues from that and think, okay, so when I wake up in the morning, I want to have my phone in a different room. Don't leave it in the room with you. So there's always that temptation. You just want to check your messages. I just want to see if anyone's got in touch with me or someone's replied to that important email I sent. Keep the phone as far away from you as possible, and perhaps just buy a simple alarm clock. So you can have the alarm clock in your room. And so instead of, because a lot of people say, oh, well, I need my phone for the alarm, which is a ludicrous solution, because you used to have an alarm clock. You never needed your phone to be the alarm clock. But now we've sort of conflated the phone with doing all of those
It's
things.
like before the phone, there was no such thing as alarm clocks. We always did without a magical reason.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can buy an alarm clock, at a cheap shop for only a few dollars. So having an alarm, a separate alarm away from your phone, and so you can leave your phone outside of your room. So take away that temptation to start with. And then it depends on your lifestyle and the things that are most difficult for you. But often in a retreat setting, you have a lot more discipline and structure. So often the course requires you to get up at certain times of the day and go to bed at certain times of the day. So trying to bring some of that discipline and that focus and structure into your own life. And so you have to start first of all with imagination. You have to imagine, because you managed to do that when you were in that environment. So you have to bring that reality and realize that you can actually do what you want to do. So if you want to get up at 6 o'clock or 5:30 or whenever it is in the morning to give yourself enough time to actually do your practice, you've shown to yourself that is possible, but you have to have some form of discipline. And so very often people want the sweet experiences, but don't want to pay the price to achieve those sweet experiences. And so it's being wise and thinking, okay, if I want to be able to meditate well, I can't be staying up till 2 a.m. every morning, because it's going to make it much, much harder for me to get up and I will run out of time. So trying to create that same sort of structure in your life that you found, especially if you found it enjoyable and meaningful when you were on retreat, it's trying to take some of those things and actually put them into practice in your daily life.
Yeah, and I would maybe add to that also finding a community, because that is such a powerful tool. If you got into meditation from a retreat or you just really launched into that practice, how do you keep it going? A community is a tremendous help. It's like that also with other things that you want to continue doing, like a fitness regime or starting a running practice or learning how to play an instrument or a language. If you have a group of people that come together once a week and do that with you, it's a tremendous motivation to keep on going. And I would say more so even with meditation. Like you and I are both part of an international community, the Sri Chinmoy centers. And that has been, for me, that has been like an amazing blessing over the years to have that community, to always be inspired, because that's what happens in a community. There's other people there. You meditate in a group, and you just have that motivation to go back to it all the time and to keep it alive in your life. And if you don't have a community right now, I would even say before you go on the retreat, like already start looking for a community that when you get back, that you can transition into having a meditation practice, and looking for somewhere where you can continue that practice with other people, with like-minded souls.
Yeah, I think that's also very fundamental, because the world is constantly pulling at you. And so if you don't have a group of people on the same side as you who are pulling in that direction, you'll find that as just one lone individual, it's very hard to stay in the world and not get pulled by the forces of the world. And the world is pulling you towards all of the other activities going on. And the world is not really promoting in your day-to-day life normally the practice of meditation. So having some people on your side who are going to help
And
keep
I
you
would also
inspired.
Yeah, and I would also say when you leave a retreat, there is always going to be a little bit of a disappointment, a little bit of a dip. You had such a magical experience, and you go back to the ordinary life. You and me go on retreats a couple of times a year with our communities, with our spiritual centers. And for me, there's always a moment when you come back to your normal life. It was so beautiful there in New York when we come together, or in another country, that this is natural. This always happens. Kind of accept that there's going to be a little bit of a lull in your consciousness, that it's going to take a few days to readjust. And it's a little bit of a painful or disappointing few days. But if you can accept that is part of the experience of transitioning back into your normal life, then some of that inspiration will linger. It will continue to inspire you if you really run with it. So you really put that inspiration to practice, and accept that it's not going to be the same as on the retreat, but you want to keep as much of it as possible.
And one thing that happens as well is that you forget the difficulties when you go on a meditation retreat. When you go away from it, like a week later or 2 weeks later, you look back on it and you only remember the really profound meditations you had, or the great insights you received. But you forget all the moments of boredom and the tediousness of doing the practice repeatedly, and the discomfort and all of these things. And so then when you come back into your life, you're kind of expecting to just have the high experiences, but you forget that the price you actually paid for those experiences was actually very high as well. Because often on a retreat, you'll be doing many, many hours of practice every day, which is normally not really sustainable for people as well. So trying to find and get a balance in your life where you don't have time, if you're still working and doing all your daily activities, to be practicing 6, 8, 10 hours a day. So realizing that the key thing in your life is to try and make a sustainable lifetime practice. So you're going to get a lot more from practicing every single day, even if it's for 15 or 20 minutes, than you would if you just go to a retreat once a year and then come back from that, and then spend the rest of the year looking back at how good that time was, but not having a practice to move forward.
Yeah, and then I think another misconception is that people sometimes think that only on the retreat are they really making a lot of progress, a lot of spiritual breakthroughs. But actually, I think when you are living your day-to-day lives, that is when you can make tremendous progress as well, because there you have the responsibilities. And on the retreat, there's no responsibilities. And actually, Sri Chinmoy once commented this to one of his students, who was complaining about how beautiful, the retreats always were. And then when he had to get back to his normal life, he felt that it was, he was not making any progress. And Sri Chinmoy actually tell them, no, that is actually the moment when you're going under the weights again in your home. You're taking these responsibilities. It's almost like you're carrying a weight, and you're pushing that weight all the time. And that is actually making you stronger. Instead of that, the progress only happens during the retreat. There's some progress there purely in your meditation, but the actual real progress you make as a person, your growth, can be much stronger if you are in your day-to-day life and you're carrying on your different responsibilities.
Yeah, I do like that analogy of the daily practice and the daily life actually being the process of actually strengthening your spirituality. So that's a nice point there.